everyone. Welcome to OHBM. Thanks for stopping by my, virtual talk at this point, although I guess I'll have the pleasure of giving it again in person. So my name is Greg Kiar, and I'm here today to talk to you about NMIND. First of all, I've no disclosures to claim, so let's get into it. So NMIND is a community. It's very young, but it's growing, and really the whole point of this talk, as you'll kind of find out, is to tell you a little bit about this community. In particular, tell you how you can become a part of it. Now, as a bit of context, the NMIND community kind of came out of this this vision where a lot of different major PIs in the field, such as Russ, who introduced fMRI prep, have been creating similar wheels to one another and essentially duplicating a lot of effort, rather than knowing that they could actually be working together more closely and supporting each other's tools. So, this is a paraphrasing of a true interaction where, Russ is introducing fMRI prep and Damien realizes that they've been modernizing or increasing the flexibility of the HCP pipelines into ABCD bids, and Ted's tool built on top of fMRI prep to create XCPD, and Mike has been working on CPAC for years and years. That's meant to be a very configurable version of the same sort of thing. And so, what this really kind of brought it to mind at the beginning was that we need to stop inventing each other's wheels all the time. And so this theme of redundancy is not hard to come by in brain imaging. And so you can look at this from the context of data processing pipelines, whether you're talking about tools that serve as foundational building blocks like AFNI, ANT, Civit, FreeSurfers, and so on, or multi-tool pipelines as those I just described, or analysis and utility tools. There's a whole lot of alternatives to choose from, and many of them doing similar things. Same goes for distributed platforms. You have Loris and Coins, RedCap, XNAT. You have metadatabases like the Canadian Open Neuroscience Platform, DataLad, NeuroVault, NeuroHub. You have analysis platforms like BrainCode, BrainLife, CBrain, NeuroScout, and so on. Same also goes for data standards. You have SIFTY, GIFTY, MINC, NIFTY, NeuroData Without Borders. There's also the AFNI formats of HEAD and BRIC, and then there's the image and header formats that are used in the older versions of FSL. You have different organization and reporting standards, such as the Brain Imaging Data Structure, Boutiques, COBIDAS, Neuroimaging Data Model. And it continues into communities. You have the INCF, the OHBM Best Practices Committee, Repronym for Diversity and Accessibility. You have Black and Neuro, the Global Brain Consortium. Again, OHBM's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Now, crucially, this list was crude and far from complete, and it already had greater than 40 items on it. And given that there's so much redundancy in this space, there's so many tools that are working on somewhat overlapping purviews, there's bound to be inconsistency as well, which is the second piece of what NMIND is trying to tackle. And so, of course, not all tools will solve the same problems, but some do solve the same problems, but do so in different ways. Now, also, some tools, and again, we can extend this to communities, to platforms. I've used tools for the sake of consistency, but really this applies across the space. So other tools, will have known traits or attributes that may not be ideal, but we know how to work around them, while others will maybe new, and they'll have unpredictable, buggy behavior. Others may be under active maintenance, while, tools in the other category may be stale, the opposite of stable. And I'm sure we can all, for instance, think of a tool that, we developed during grad school and then stopped maintaining, and kind of fits into this category. Some tools are easy to contribute to, and others may be a little bit less obvious. They have a higher barrier to entry. Some tools have transparent and automated testing, and others are a little bit more opaque. And this list of questions can go on and on and on. And so, even down to the level of which of these tools are, developed by communities versus those that are developed by individuals. And really what this leads us all to say is, where do I start? How do I actually make use of this space and make the best use of it possible to produce effective science? And this is really where NMIND is trying to step in and provide value to the community. And so there's no shortage of tools, of standards, of solutions to tricky problems. And the goal is not to create another one. The goal is to help the community adopt and integrate these standards in a meaningful way so that we can actually avoid this XKCD comic that I'm sure we've all stumbled onto and laughed at. There's 4 competing standards. Oh, there's 14, this is ridiculous. We need one that covers every use case, and now there's 15. We are really not trying to do this. And we really think that this is part of the problem. Rather than trying to come up with a catch-all, our goal is really to make it easy to decipher, decode, and kind of navigate this space of standards, of tool development, best practices, and so on, and tools themselves, so that we can easily adopt the ones that are relevant. We can easily evaluate tools based on the relevant axes. And ultimately, we can improve the trust in brain imaging software, which will make it easier to make difficult decisions around tool selection. It'll reduce our desire to reinvent wheels, and it'll make sure we're more collaborative and end up having more reproducible results. Now, a crucial part of this is making sure that we stay in line with what the community actually cares about and needs. And so a vision for the governance model of NMIND is really this kind of grassroots sketch that turned into something a little bit more hacky than a sketch, I suppose. That really starts with the community. We're all members of the community. That's why we're here. And the goal is that we want to have members on this so-called strategic committee that have a place in this community, but also have a place and kind of interest in advancing NMIND. And the goal here is to basically be feelers and understand what are the priorities of the community, what matters, what doesn't. Tell that to our so-called executive leadership, who will then prioritize bolstering the development of these, tools or initiatives or standards or platforms or what have you, whatever is determined to be of use, that'll then again feed back into this community. And so there's a number of axes here that I'll unpack a little bit later of where we envision this kind of starting. But the crucial piece that I wanted to convey on this slide with the governance is the whole point is that it's a grassroots community-led effort. Everything should be not for its own sake. It should always be for the purpose of advancing the science that our community is trying to do. Now, and again, 3 words you probably noticed on the first slide, but I haven't really said until now, is there's 3 ways that we try and kind of accomplish this. And so the NMIND objective is to align, to test, and to engage. And so in the alignment stage, this is really about tightening the loop between tools that we're each making on our own and the communities that they're serving. We also want to ensure that there's consistency and quality and the relevance of tools to given applications, as well as specific benchmark data as it may be appropriate. And of course, we want to engage with the community and provide a vehicle to link researchers and tool developers together. Now, the first way we've done this is through software checklists. If you go to our website now, nmind.org/standards-checklists, you can see an interactive form here that's partially completed. And you can start evaluating your tool or tool you're interested in using and share the results with us. There's a portal that's being built, but for now you can share it with GitHub or via email or what have you. And ideally improve software. And so the goal here is, there's several different documentation, infrastructure, and testing standards and lists with slightly different focuses and motivations. But again, overall, the objective here is really just to make it easy to say, what are the standards I should be developing my tool to? Or what are the standards I can expect or I can reasonably expect another tool developer or set of developers to have gone through in the production of their software in order for me to reasonably trust it. Now, with the outcomes of these results, this list is slightly out of date now, but the idea is then we'll create this portal, again, both for review and search, that makes it really easy for tool consumers to navigate this space, to go in and say, okay, this is the tool I'm interested in using. How can I learn about it? How can I figure out what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses, and if it's appropriate for my problem? Now, in addition to all these efforts with the checklist, we have a number of other fronts we want to push forward. And so a crucial component of this effort is training. This is, just helping instill best practices in software development and software literacy. This is, something that's very much in line with the open science special interest group at OHBM. The most important one for, as I mentioned, for this talk is really one of governance, really trying to make sure that we have, real representation from the community that are actually driving these efforts. And then the last thing is sustainability, to make sure that we have opportunities, we identify opportunities for growth, and to make sure that this can actually continue to exist and provide value. And so, as I said, the real purpose of this is to make sure that you all feel empowered to get involved. And there's a number of ways you can do that today. So whether it's checking out the existing initiatives we have ongoing on our GitHub repo, joining us for our approximately monthly hackathons, though we take the summer off, so don't rush to get in there in August, or I guess you won't see this before July, so that's fine. Again, whether, as I mentioned earlier, it's a matter of testing your own tools, or a few other ways. And again, you can find out more on our website there. So really the goal with NMIND, as I mentioned, is to provide an open ecosystem for training, developments, and the advancement of open software. This will help us to establish harmonized tools, testing, and terminology, and ultimately reduce both redundancy and inconsistency in our field. With all of this done, it'll allow us to make more efficient scientific advancement. Now, we have a paper that's out soon, and again, it may be out by the time we're in person, in Nature Human Behavior, and I encourage you to give it a read. And until I see you in person, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you to CMI and UMIN for supporting our effort financially up to this point. And looking forward to hanging out in Montreal. Take care.